How you doing, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know it has been a minute. I decided to go on a YouTube hiatus because I was trying to focus on this media career that I got going on, and just decided to go on a hiatus to really focus and recollect myself. But of course, YouTube is where I started everything, and I'm really happy. I'm super excited. And if you're new to my channel or it's your first time for you to click on this video, kindly ensure that you click that red word subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. And I'm gonna be giving you a lot of content. Well, today's topic is about pain. Well, before we go too far, I had forgotten to say my name. My name is Uncle Sakwa, and I'm a radio presenter and TV presenter, a content curator, and a mental health advocate for the boy child. I literally talk about some of the mental health issues that the boy child like you right there, or even the girl child like you out there, go through. And before I made the decision to make this video, I was praying for God to give me a lot of wisdom and even the words to say. And I'm really humbled again to have the strength to even record this video, because a lot has been going on behind the scenes on my end. But regardless whatsoever, God still got me. Well, when you talk about pain, let me ask this question: like, what exactly comes to your mind? For me, when I talk about pain, the first thing that hits my mind is that one thing that drained me at some point in my life, and I almost wanted to quit. I cried, I blamed myself, I even asked God, why me? Well, let me give one example. There was a time back 2 years ago, I was praying for my dad to heal, because he was going through a very hard time. And despite that, I'm his firstborn son, and I was really focused on making my dream come true. I wanted to be the biggest radio presenter in town, and the fact that I pushed for a lot of things to work, and some of them didn't work and some of them worked. It really took a toll on me, because at some point I had to be a little bit rebellious so that I just have my dream come true. Well, the worst part is early last year, my dad got abducted, and our dad was like everything to us, my whole entire family. He was the breadwinner, like he was the center of everything in our family, and we loved him, he loved me, and he was abducted. And that was the hardest part, like that was the most painful experience we had to go through as a family. And I remember when I read the news on a blog, and also it was published in the magazines, the newspapers right here in Kenya, and just in the 1 p.m. news for all TV stations, it was like the first story being highlighted. Yep. And I was shocked. My mind, I was confused, because I had been praying for so many things that God would grant me, so that we have a very deeper relationship with my dad, because that's when my career was like jet setting itself up, and my dad was really supportive. We were very close friends. I was emotional by then because of some things that had happened to me, and I was dealing with them low-key without telling anyone. But at the same time, I had devoted myself to this career, and I was really putting in a lot of work. I remember like 2-3 years ago, I never went anywhere. I had devoted myself to editing videos, learning how to communicate, a radio expert, a communications expert. So I was learning a lot of things. I had devoted my life to fully focus on how to communicate like an expert on TV or radio, or even as a director. So that happened, and when my dad was abducted, he was actually taken to Aga Khan Hospital in Kisumu, and he was in the ICU. So the next day, not the same day, I traveled to Kisumu to actually be with him at the hospital. I was shocked. It was really sad to see my dad on his deathbed, and despite the fact that he was promising that we heard signs. He even it was on his face. His face was communicating that he's going to heal. He's going to get back on his toes and be able to go back to work and still be that loving and caring dad we had. But the worst part is, when he needed surgery, because he was badly wounded from, the pain and the wounds inflicted on him by the people who abducted him. So he had to be transferred to Nairobi Hospital for another surgery, and that's when things went south. I fell into depression. I hated myself. That was the time I realized that I didn't have any friends at all. It was just me and God. And I remember, I don't want to say that part. Sorry for that part. I remember when I started praying for God to instantly heal my dad, because at this point we had gone through so much, and financially I was down. I was already feeling like I just want to give up in this career thing, in this media career thing, because I felt like I don't need it anymore, because by then I had already started doing some other shoddy stuff. But previously, like I remember 5 years ago when I was starting my career, I had promised myself that I would never ever settle for less, because I've put in a lot of work, and I know when the results start coming out, they're gonna be as equal as the efforts I've really put in to ensure that everything works. But life happens and things just take a different turn. So I had to do what I had to do, and unfortunately we lost our dad, and that's when I was extremely disappointed. I cried like a little baby. I remember when I was leaving, and my dad was like, you shouldn't leave, because you need to stay, because it was already late. But the next day I had a class, so I didn't stay. But unfortunately that was the night he passed on, and I remember him telling me, when you reach home you need to give me a call and just tell me that you reached home safely. But it didn't happen. By the time I was reaching home, calling him, he was already gone, and I was extremely disappointed. I remember asking God, why do you let this happen to me, God? I've been praying. I even stopped doing everything. I even stopped going to school to just pray for my dad to heal, because my dad was like my only friend. He was really encouraging me, and he was really hopeful, and he had, like, God had like showed him how my future would be, and he was really supportive. He was really a caring and a loving dad. I remember I cried like a little baby even during the funeral. Anybody who attended my dad's funeral knows that I cried like a little baby. But that was extremely painful for me, and I really doubted God, because I remember by then I was already spiritual, like fully focused on praying and needing a miracle from God. But I was disappointed, and at some point I remember I gave up even going to church. I really doubted God. But after I went through the depression, the anxiety, the ADHD and everything, I bounced back like 6 months later, but the pain was still deep in my heart, and there was that bitterness inside me. And I remember I built up this wall that I wouldn't allow anyone in my space, so I just wanted to be alone most of the time. So a lot of people thought that maybe I just had issues, I'm a guy with issues, but nah, that was what I was going through, and the pain was extremely heavy in my heart. Well, another story that has made me learn something about pain and God is there was a documentary last year on the interweb by Tony Braxton. I think it's from the Braxton Family Values, where Tony Braxton says that pain is information, and when you feel pain, it just confirms, or your body is telling you that Porus, there's something wrong and you need to pay attention to it. And also Lauryn Hill's story about being used by God. I remember there was a documentary in an interview where she was saying before she passed on that sometimes to be used by God, you have to be really used by people and so many other things out there. And there's a point where she says most of us want to be used by God for the most super amazing shiny stuff, glorious diamonds, this wild, whole new world of stars and stardom. But that's not being used by God. You have to be really, really used with a lot of pain. But remember, sometimes you have to be kicked and beaten. But the person who is kicking and beating you is feeling more pain than you are. And I was shocked, by the way. And I learned that it's 1,000% true. Sometimes you have to be kicked and beaten, but the person who is kicking and beating you is feeling more pain than you are. How do you feel about that? Well, that's what I learned, and that's a scripture that I really use a lot, and it's in Psalms chapter 20 from verse 1. It says, especially when you're going through a lot of pain in your life and you're really praying for God to do something and then nothing happens. Like me, by then I was praying for my dad to heal, and unfortunately he passed on. It says, may the Lord answer you when you are in trouble. May the God of Jacob protect you. May he send you help from his temple and give you aid from Mount Zion. May he accept all your offerings and be pleased with all your sacrifices. And I think I really use that verse most of the time, and it really helps me sometimes when I'm feeling so down. But here is some of the few lessons I learned about pain and how your mind works. And lesson number 1, there are only 3 lessons. And lesson number 1 is, no matter how much time goes faster, if God wants to make you experience his power, love, protection, affection, presence, he will stop time to wait for you. Well, you might not get this, you might not understand how God stops time for him to like repay you everything you've been through. Of course, you'll never understand until he gives you what you've been praying for the longest time. Well, you can think about that, because everything about God is just like, God is not a God to be understood. Nobody can understand God, and he is a mystery. Well, lesson number 2, as you think about that, is your brain is like a car tire, and if you set it to move forward, it proceeds with the momentum or the force that you put in, and also if you push it back, it goes. So does the same and enters into the past. So you can make your brain to focus into the present, or you can make your brain to focus into the past, or your mind literally. So I was really struggling to understand that, but I learned this on my own. And then lastly, live in the moment. Like there's the power of now, the power of present. Well, most of the time we are really troubled by things that did happen to us in our past, but we forget that what we have right now, what we have at the table right now, is what we should focus on. Because for me, I really struggled to move on from my dad's death. Till today, I've been healing. Like, healing is actually gradual and transitional. And by the time, and also healing, for me, I understand healing as, the power and the ability to live above and beyond your hurt and your scars. So you don't have to be forced into healing. If your healing involves, crying every day, then that's the package you got. And if your healing includes, sleeping the whole day, then nobody has to force you, or nobody should give you the recipe of how your healing should occur, because healing is just another, Pandora's box to a different experience about, everything that you've been through. And it sometimes can take a toll on you, especially if you're praying for healing. And it makes you wiser. Sometimes pain just makes you wiser. It makes you stronger. And if you've ever been humiliated or been through anything that, set you back, just know that that's part of the package of becoming the star you should be. So don't give up. If you feel in any kind of way despised or discouraged or not ready to even move forward, just know that that's the package you got. And at some point, you're gonna look back and be so amazed how it worked out. What do you think about this? Yeah, make sure you hit that red button, subscribe, and you can check me out on my social media. My Instagram is @Sakwa, and remember to subscribe. And I'll see you next time in another video. God bless.